So I started this new job, right? And it's been going pretty good. The end of today wasn't too great. It was like, one mistake, then that turned into another mistake, and it was exhausting. But anyways, when you start a job and you get there and you find out that you walked into this, this kind of soap opera type deal. You kind of walked into a place where it's really kind of making you question the job, really. And it's not bad. You just have to be careful not to get drawn into it. Because you're walking into something totally different than it's something you didn't really expect. That wasn't in the job description. Hey, welcome to the Narrative Mindset Podcast. I'm Gerald Tabb. You can call me GT or G. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a comment, follow, or subscribe if you watch it on YouTube. So, I'm at this job and it's starting to kind of trip me out, right? Because I think it was yesterday, right? Let's be honest. I'm standing there and these guys I can hear them kind of talking about me. I'm new. They're like, what's he know how to do? In my mind, I'm thinking, well, since you ask, I know how to come to work on time. I know how to work a full day of work. And I know how to show up consistently. That's a good place to start, considering your other employees can't even do that. And I've only been there for 3 weeks. But, it's funny that they start to kind of criticize the new employee when the real problem is the people you've been working with long before I got there. One guy, he has not worked a full week on time since I got there, and I've only been there 3 weeks. It's like the work schedule is a suggestion, not a requirement. And it's like you got one guy at one end of the building, he's yapping to somebody about the other guy at the other end of the building, and that guy's yapping to somebody else. I'm looking like, what the hell is going on here? This is like a freaking soap opera. And I'm standing there with the guy that's training me, and another guy will come up, he'll say something about another guy. He walks off, the guy that's training me says something about him, and I'm looking at him like, okay. I don't really get into that. I've been there before. I'm not going to say that I haven't, but I just don't get into that because it's just not my thing anymore. I mind my own business. I could care less if you never come to work. It's really not my problem. If you don't come to work, I'm going to work just as hard as I would have if you did come to work. People complain about having to do extra work. It's like, we're here for 8 hours. We're here for 10 hours. So regardless, you're going to work. That's just the bottom line. But your work is going to be much more complicated if you spend the whole day worrying about and complaining about somebody that didn't show up for work. So, you really don't want to do that. I don't really suggest it, but, who am I? I'm just a new guy. So we'll see. I'm not saying that I'm ditching the job yet. I'm just saying that it's just a normal work environment that I'm all too familiar with. All too familiar. It's just a normal thing. And you kind of, like I say, you have to kind of really be careful, because if you forget and you allow yourself to get sucked into that, then now all of a sudden, you're involved in it, and, somebody else may, hear that you said something and they coming to you, what did you say about me? And, it's none of your business, yada, yada, yada. It can turn into a big mess. Don't get me wrong, not that, I'm scared or anybody else, whatever. I just don't want to be that person, to be honest. I've done the work on myself. I found my peace, my content, my happiness, everything like that. And once you find that, it's priceless. I would much rather walk away than to ever become the person that I want to be in my mind. Thanks for listening to the Narrative Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, GT. You can call me, I'm your host, Gerald Tabb. That's my name. But you can call me GT or G Money, whichever. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think, what you want to hear. If there's a question you want me to answer, have a good day. Don't get lost in the sauce.